All right, let's dive into this explainer and absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about your kitchen fruit bowl. Welcome. Today, we're taking a seriously fascinating journey into the science behind fruit categories. We're going to look right past the culinary labels we use every single day and uncover the strictly scientific and honestly beautifully bizarre botanical reality of what we eat. Prepare to have your mind completely blown by biology.
So what if I told you your absolute favorite berry is, well, a complete lie? Seriously. What's really interesting here is that the everyday labels we use for our food are actually full of botanical contradictions. I mean, we go to the grocery store, we comfortably buy baskets of strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries, right? But as you'll see in this explainer, from a purely scientific perspective, the word berry has a completely different meaning than what bakers or chefs might tell you. You see, the disconnect happens because everyday English defines a berry by its size and taste. Usually, it's something small, juicy, round, maybe brightly colored, sweet or sour, and crucially, without a hard pit or stone in the middle. But botany doesn't care about what tastes good in a fruit salad. Botany defines a berry by a very strict set of structural and developmental rules involving flowers and plant ovaries. Let's look exactly at what those scientific rules actually are.
To a botanist, a true berry is a fleshy fruit produced from a single flower containing just one ovary. The entire outer layer of that ovary wall ripens into an edible, fleshy interior, and the seeds are usually embedded right there in that flesh. And by this strict scientific definition, the list of true berries gets incredibly weird. Did you know that grapes, bananas, and even eggplants are categorized as true botanical berries? No joke, they really are.
And this completely shifts our paradigm. Simple, fleshy fruits without a stone, like kiwis and, surprisingly enough, spicy chilies, are the real berries of the world. When you think about it structurally, a single flower, a single ovary, and seeds embedded within a fleshy interior, it starts to make perfect logical sense why a chili pepper and a kiwi actually share a scientific category.
Let's examine this even closer. When you look at a sliced tomato right next to some coffee cherries, you can clearly see the biological similarities. They both possess those fleshy interiors with multiple embedded seeds that perfectly align with the botanical rules of a true berry. Yeah, that means ketchup is technically a berry jam, and your morning coffee? Well, it's brewed from the seeds of a berry.
Real quick before we move on, I want to give you a great new word to impress your friends with. In botany, a plant that bears true berries is called bacchiferous or baccate, which comes from the Latin word bacca. So next time you're tending to your tomato garden or admiring a banana tree, you can confidently tell your neighbors that your plants are highly bacchiferous.
Section 1. Surprising simple fleshy fruits.
Okay, so botanists categorize succulent, fleshy fruits into very specific and sometimes surprising groups based on their biological development. When the fruit wall, known as the pericarp, is fleshy and differentiated into 3 distinct layers, scientists break them down into categories like the berry we just discussed, the balausta, the pepo, and the pome. Let's break these down so you can see exactly how diverse simple fruits can be. Take the pomegranate, for example. Scientifically, it's known as a balausta. It's actually considered a false berry. It has a hard outer rind, and the fleshy mesocarp forms these inner folds. But the truly fascinating part here, the actual edible part of the pomegranate isn't the fruit flesh itself. It's the juicy seed coat, formerly called the testa.
Meanwhile, members of the gourd family, like the cucumber or even watermelons and pumpkins, they're categorized as a pepo. A pepo is a simple, fleshy fruit characterized by a tough, leathery skin, and it develops from what is called an inferior ovary. So yes, your refreshing summer cucumber slices actually belong to a highly specific botanical family of leathery-skinned fruits.
And then we have the classic apple, which belongs to a category called a pome. Apples and pears are, wait for it, false fruits. They are highly fleshy and many-seeded, but the actual seeds are protected inside a tough cartilaginous inner core layer. The crisp, sweet part you eat is essentially just swollen plant tissue surrounding that rigid inner pericarp. Moving right along to Section 2, aggregate fruits and imposters. Aggregate fruits are chaotic and, honestly, absolutely fascinating. Unlike simple fruits that develop from one ovary, aggregate fruits develop when a single flower has many separate, free-floating ovaries, a condition botanists call polycarpellary apocarpus. As the flower blooms and gets pollinated, every single one of those individual ovaries grows into its own tiny mini-fruit, all clustered together on one dais.
And this brings us to the ultimate imposter, the strawberry. It is not a berry at all. I know, it's right there in the name, but the big, red, sweet, juicy part of the strawberry that we love to eat isn't a swollen plant ovary like a tomato. It's actually a complex aggregate fruit made of swollen accessory tissue, specifically the expanded receptacle of the flower itself.
To really wrap our heads around the strawberry, we first need to define something called an achene. An achene is a type of simple, dry fruit that doesn't open when it matures. It contains a single seed that nearly fills the inside, but doesn't actually stick to the outer wall. Because the fruit wall hardens so tightly around that single seed, an achene perfectly mimics the look of a simple seed.
Which leads to the ultimate botanical deception. Those tiny, hard specks on the outside of the strawberry, you've probably always called them seeds, right? Well, they are actually the true fruits of the plant. Each little speck is an individual dry achene fruit containing a microscopic seed inside. This makes the strawberry an aggregate fruit officially known as an heterogio of achenes. Wild, isn't it?
Similarly, let's look at raspberries and blackberries. They aren't true berries either. They are classified as an editorium of drupes. A drupe is a fleshy fruit with a stone, kind of like a peach or a cherry. Raspberries and blackberries are actually an aggregate of dozens of tiny individual stone fruits called druplets, all clustered together from a single flower.
Now, in a twist of brilliant botanical irony, let me introduce you to the custard apple, or sharifa. It's an aggregate fruit, just like the strawberry and raspberry, but in this case, the individual tiny fruitlets that fuse together actually are true berries. So the custard apple is technically an heterio of berries, making this bumpy, massive fruit way more of a berry than a strawberry will ever be.
Section 3. The bizarre world of dry fruits.
Plants like the castor and geranium produce a specific type of dry fruit called eregma. What's amazing about eregma is that it is a schizocarpic fruit. Basically, this means that when it reaches maturity, the dry fruit physically splits apart into single-seeded parts, and it does this with such sudden force that it can sometimes produce an audible popping noise. Imagine just walking through a garden and hearing the plants literally popping their fruits open.
And finally, Section 4, Rethinking Your Fruit Bowl.
So, your local grocery store isn't just a place to buy food. It is a stunning showcase of evolutionary biology. It's a place where our culinary language and rigorous science playfully collide. We call sweet, soft things berries and savory things vegetables, but beneath those culinary terms is an incredible complex system of structural plant anatomy that tells the real story of how our food grows.
So I want to leave you with this final, bizarre thought to chew on the next time you pack a lunch. Next time you bite into a strawberry, will you remember that you are actually eating a swollen flower covered in dozens of tiny, dry, achene fruits? Knowing the botanical truth is so empowering, and frankly, it's just so much fun. Because once you understand the science of fruit categories, you can literally never look at a simple fruit salad the exact same way again. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.